A client sits down, maybe it's a Zoom call, maybe it's in person, and says this: I need coaching on something important, but I can't actually tell you what it is. It's confidential. I can't go into detail about the actual problem. What do? Many coaches would freeze here. They'd think, how can I possibly help if I don't even know what we're talking about? But here's what I want you to understand. This scenario is more common than you'd think, and you can absolutely coach in this space. Let me paint this picture fully. You will actually work with clients where the information they want coaching on is confidential. They cannot share details about the actual problem. Maybe it's an executive dealing with a potential merger that hasn't been announced. Maybe it's a leader navigating a sensitive personnel issue. Maybe it's board level decisions they simply cannot disclose. This happens more often than you might expect, especially with senior leaders navigating sensitive organizational matters. And you know what? That's okay. You can still coach powerfully in that space. This is marker 5.06 in action, being comfortable working in a space of not knowing. Notice the word ICF uses here. Comfortable, not struggling through, not faking it, actually at ease when you don't have the full picture. This competency challenges our natural instinct to gather information and understand the full picture. It requires trust in yourself, in the coaching process, and in your client's capacity to do their own thinking. When you embody this comfort, you create space for clients to explore even what they cannot name aloud. So why does this actually work? Here's the key. The client is doing the work. While you focus on the client, they focus on the problem. They hold all the information in their mind and make the connections. Your role doesn't change just because the content is hidden. You listen to what they do express, their tone, their energy, their thinking patterns, and you respond to that. And something powerful happens when you're not distracted by problem details. You can focus entirely on how your client is processing and what they need to move forward. Discovery still happens. Insight still emerges. Growth still occurs. So if you're not focused on the content, what are you focused on? The client, the person, not the problem. You're watching how they're thinking, noticing their thought patterns, their assumptions, their mental frameworks. You're observing how they're feeling, their emotional responses, their energy shifts, what resonates and what doesn't. You're exploring how they're deciding their values, their priorities, their decision-making process. You're coaching the person, not solving the problem, and that person has everything they need to work through their challenge. Your job is to help them access it. Let me give you some questions that work beautifully when content is confidential. What is challenging about this for you? This helps them explore their personal relationship to the situation without needing to disclose details. How do you want to approach it? This shifts focus from the problem itself to their strategy and action. What feels most important? This clarifies their values and priorities without needing content specifics. What feels most risky about this? This surfaces fears and concerns that might be blocking forward movement. How do you want to show up in this? This centers on their identity and desired presence rather than the details. Notice what these questions have in common. They're all about the client, not the content. Here's what I want you to walk away with. You can coach powerfully without knowing the content. This isn't a limitation. It's actually a demonstration of masterful coaching. When you're comfortable not knowing, you create space for your client to think deeply and arrive at their own insights. Remember, this happens more often than you expect, especially with executives and leaders dealing with confidential organizational matters. Focus on the client, not what they're trying to resolve, and you'll be okay not knowing everything. Trust the process. Trust your client. One of the most powerful tools in a present coach's toolkit requires 0 words. Let's talk about silence.